Are you recording now?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hello. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. A really good turnout, which I'm really happy to see. Before I get started, seeing as we're here with some really happy, enthusiastic people about health and safety, I'll just point out that in the event of an emergency, if we do need to evacuate, fire exits are just, or the exits are just there. There's one just on the other side of the wall, and obviously out the entrance where we came in. And bathrooms are just through the fire doors as you came in as well. Those ones are blocked at the moment, so we won't use those ones. But yeah, no, as I said on the invites to everybody, thank you. Yeah, yes, please. Thank you for putting your hands up to be part of your club executive. It can be at times a thankless task, but do know that myself and the board and Bowls New Zealand do really appreciate the time and effort that you put in to your club executives. So yeah, we'll get through. We've got a lot to get through tonight. I am actually filming this, so we hopefully will be able to put it up on our website and you can refer to it later because there's a lot of information, as you can see from the agenda. So just some key things that we're going to go through, obviously, as you can see up there and that are on your handouts. We're going to go through the sale of alcohol with Paul Spang from the Christchurch City Council Liquor Licensing Team. We'll go through funding applications with Greg Clapp, formerly of the Southern Trust. Currently, sorry, my apologies. Go through constitutions with Lorraine McLeod from Bowls New Zealand, and Greg will add some information there with his Justice of the Peace hat on. And obviously health and safety with Mr. Bill Fowley, as well as Lorraine talking about Club Check. And then I'll do a little bit of a talk about some communications with Bowls Canterbury, Bowls New Zealand, and your club itself, as well as the general public. And then we've got Jenny Anderson and Ray Miller from Woody Bowling Club, just a little bit of good news story at the end. Yeah, that's what we're going to try and get through tonight. As I say, there's a lot to take in, but hopefully with the camera you can refer back to, or the filming you can refer back to it later. But I'd like to welcome Paul Spang up to talk about alcohol licensing.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting me, Mel. Look, I just want to start off with a couple of points. Firstly, yeah, I'm an alcohol licensing inspector for the Christchurch City Council. I've been in that role for approximately 15 years now, so I've had a lot to do with clubs over the years. So many people here will know me, or spoken to you on the phone perhaps.
It's very hard to hear. Thank you.
Sorry. Talk a bit louder. Now, some of you might remember me from the Epiphany Bowls Club, Toys Arms Road. I spoke there a wee while ago, might have been last year, yes, I spoke about it then. I've also written to all the sports clubs in Christchurch and Banksmuch, just warning them about control purpose operation for clubs, which is ongoing, where we send in a plainclothes police officer or two to see if they'll be sold to because they're not a member of any club. So that brings me to one of the first things I wanted to talk about today, is that what we've created is some cards. One is for bar staff and one is for patrons. So to try and simplify things, we're going through the questions that bar staff need to ask. Just as a revisor, of course, a club licence doesn't allow the sale of alcohol to the general public. A club licence doesn't allow the place to operate like a tavern or a function centre. It's a club licence, so they're only allowed to sell, clubs can only sell to guests, members, or those from affiliated clubs. And most clubs can also now sell to guests of affiliated members as well. So to simplify, we've got these cards which I've got down the back there, so please help yourself. These ones, ideally the smaller one would go near the till, and this goes over the questions that should be asked. So the bar staff, and this information needs to get down to the bar staff, they need to ask these 4 questions. If all the answers are no, they can't sell them alcohol. You can of course sell them food and non-alcoholic drinks, but they can't be sold alcohol legally if the answer to these questions is no. This larger one here, which I've got some down the back there as well, is just pointing out, just to remind patrons why they're being asked these questions. So hopefully it'll get buy-in from your patrons. I've also left some signs down the back there regarding minors and intoxication and free water. So you can help yourself with those as well. There's not that many there. If you don't need any more, just contact alcohol licensing. We get them free from Community Public Health via HPA, Health Promotion Agency, so we can send some out if you need any more. The other main point I wanted to raise today is a promotion known as Game Plan, and this is primarily in Christchurch and Banks Peninsula, so if you're from outside that area you may not be involved in it. I can only talk for my area, and it's an initiative involving the Health Promotion Agency, Community Public Health, Sports Canterbury and myself, and basically we're working with the clubs to create alcohol management plans and policies. So it's a bit more detailed about how they're going to operate, and to help with that process we've created Word templates that can just be typed into, and we've got examples. So what will happen at some stage, probably early next year, will be Sport Canterbury, Bruce will be in contact with Mel to look at arranging an evening with a supper. We'll be doing a launch and explaining, and I'll be there, and we'll be explaining it in more detail, and that will be emailing out some information and answering any questions on the night. Now, getting back to, I guess, club requirements, one of the main points I want to clarify is sign-in books, because the controlled purchase operations with clubs is ongoing. Now, most of the controlled purchase operations we do involve sending in minors to licensed premises to see if they'll be sold to, 14, 15, 16-year-olds. Unfortunately, places still sell, and you could be involved in that. But the specific club control purchase operation is just a test to see if the clubs will sell to non-members, sell to the general public. That's been ongoing. I wrote to all the clubs August last year, and they've been ongoing since then. We've had a bowling club failure. We've had pretty much failures in all the different codes, unfortunately, and a lot of confusion is still out there regarding the sign-in books. So I want to clarify a couple of points. Firstly, the sign-in book is not a legal requirement. You don't have to have it. It could, unless perhaps it's in your constitution. So check on that. If it is and you're not having problems with it, you might want to remove that. I'm not sure what that process is. Secondly, if you are going to use the sign-in book correctly, it would be kept at the bar, and it would be for members to sign in their guests in front of bar staff, so staff know who your guest is that can be sold alcohol, or from people from other clubs with reciprocal visiting rights to sign in, and the club that they're from. The problem we're having is there's a number of people out there for some reason who think that if the general public come in and sign themselves in, they can be sold alcohol. That's a no. That just basically means that it's a tavern with a sign-in book. So if you're not convinced that your staff have got that, throw the book away. And as I said, unless it's in your constitution, because it's causing more problems than it's worth. And unfortunately, bowling clubs seem to be having the most confusion with these sign-in books. So does that clarify that point?
Yeah. I thought one member could sign in before.
Yes, so that's different. That's a member signing in a guest or guest. And that's another question. I'm talking about, my example was Joe Public, who's not a member of any club, who's not with a member, coming in and being asked, you're a member, no, I will sign in the book and I can sell you a beer. That's not legal. The issue of how many people we can sign in has been put to me tonight. We've usually worked on a number of 4 with the working men's clubs. There's no clear case law on it, depends on which judge you ask. I don't think anyone's had a problem with 4 to 6 people, one member signing in. However, they need to be there inviting guests, and they need to accompany them. So, for example, they should be in the same room. If I went to a large working men's club, for example, and I found out that 2 people were in this room and the other 4 were down the other end downstairs, well, that person, how can that member be responsible for them and be taking care of them? So if there was something happening, for example, in this room, and they were your invited guests and you know them, that would be fine. We had a situation up north where a controlled purchase operation was carried out, and when it was clarified that the person shouldn't have been sold alcohol, they said, oh, well, hey, Bob, come over here and sign this guy in. And that wasn't legal either, because it wasn't his invited guest. Is that make sense? Yes.
Well, the 99 club that was held up as a model for the rest of us to look at in terms of promoting the club and bowling, how do they overcome this?
I'm not familiar with that club. I'm familiar with the ones that have been before Arla and had suspensions, but I'm not familiar with that club. Who?
It was Wellington, I think, obviously, but yeah, they were held up by New Zealand bowls as being somebody we should all follow, because suddenly they had a membership of 20, I think, but then they had about 400 people coming to play bowls.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their business model was. Yeah, but good on them. But in saying that, I strongly would recommend when someone comes in and you might not be able to sell them alcohol, obviously you need to have some systems in place where you've got a membership form and some sort of encouragement for them to become a member, and make it into a recruitment drive rather than a negative, sorry, you've got to go.
And that's what I've done.
Yes.
I've signed them up as
So absolutely, I'd be pushing for that.
So for bowlers, what's the law on that?
Green fees is an interesting question. The police believe, and there is some case law, that day membership or green fees doesn't make them a member of the club. I personally think that it should, the same with golf clubs. However, the case law doesn't support it and the police don't believe it. So if anyone asks me, Paul, someone pays a green fee, can I use their bar? My answer has to be, I don't think so. I'm not going to even tell anyone to do it in case I do get prosecuted for it. But what I have suggested to a number of clubs, I've asked them, have you got a social membership? Yes. How much is it? Whatever, say $20. How much is your green fee? $20. Then why don't you make them a social member? Get them to sign an application form, make them a social member, and guess what? They might come back now. So with the social membership side of things, you also have to consider, of course, whether you give them voting rights and things like that, because there's totally different sports clubs I've been involved with over the years. One got themselves lost a bit of control of the club with a lot of people who weren't really into the sport that all of a sudden had voting rights. So you'll know as a social member what rights you give them.
Is it correct that a person that's actually serving behind the bar cannot sign a member, sign a person?
Well, not a stranger. I mean, you could argue that if it was their invited guests, they could, particularly if they were in the same room as them or sitting at the bar. But for a total stranger, no. The case law on that was that it wasn't their invited guests. So the case would be, let's just say I went behind the bar and my neighbour shifted in, new neighbour, and I said, hey, you know, would you like to come down and have a go at bowls? Come be my guest tonight. So if I can be working behind the bar, then they should really be up near the bar with me. Now it's not ideal, it would be better if they were wandering around, but that would be a case where I've invited them to be my guest, I'm a member of the club, they're my guest, I'm responsible for them. But the case where someone comes in off the street and the bar staff's saying, oh, well, I'll sign you in then because you're not a member, or they're not an invited guest, and there was a decision that went against the club who did that. Yes?
What about the negative bowls?
Well, it depends on how it's set up. Depends on whether it's under a special license. Depends. I mean, the question you need to always ask yourself is, when you look at the license, or when you look at this card before you sell them alcohol, it's the same. Are they a member of this club? Have you made them social members? Are they, you know, were they invited by a member of the club? Now again, if you've got 20 people and one member's invited them, well, I'd say that would be obviously pushing the boundary. So if we talk about 4 to 6 people per person, have they been, you know, invited by those members to come? Are they from a club with reciprocal visiting rights?
And the people from the community
Yeah.
that put teams in play during the summertime from period of time.
Now, if you're a tavern, yes. If you're a function centre, yes. But because you're a club, you're limited to who you can sell alcohol. So probably not. Unless I'll be making them social members. Particularly if it's going to be ongoing. And let's face it, you want it to come back, don't you? So it's always going to come back before you sell alcohol. And as I said, it doesn't matter with food or non-alcoholic drinks, but before you sell alcohol, you need to ask these questions. Ask yourself, ask the person these questions. And there's really no exceptions outside that.
If you're in doubt, you get a special license.
If in doubt, get a special license. Now, what some clubs have been doing, some golf clubs, for example, they've been getting on licenses. They've been getting a resource consent and they've been getting an on license, which means that they can sell to the public, but the resource consent often have quite a few conditions on it. That depends on where they are, who owns the land, whether they'll get landlord's consent to get a non-licence. But a few have been doing that to make them more flexible. Rusty Golf Course, for example. One in Shirley, and I think another one out McLean's Island has just done it or is doing it now. It's been quite a big golf club since I've been here.
We run a 10-week program for corporate clubs, and we actually got a special license to run.
Yes. Yeah, special license allows you to sell alcohol to the public. We need 20 working days notice, everybody does, and sometimes they can be linked if it's the same group over a period of time.
We have special starting some design basically, all that,
Yep. And for me, for example, you know, if you want to do a recruitment drive at certain times of the year, would be a special license for a Saturday and Sunday as a residents recruitment drive, local residents recruitment drive, for example, come down, have a go. Just, you know, this is an example of an event. And of course, if it's over 2 days and they're linked, you can one special license will cover both days. And the smaller numbers under 100 are relatively cheap.
What are the penalties?
Penalties, well, unauthorised sale and supply is typically a fine up to $20,000. And it's a holding against the licence, which means if they get 3 holdings in a certain amount of time, the licence is cancelled. Which is why we're not, what the clubs we're doing at the moment, we're issuing infringement notices rather than seeking suspension, because we'd normally just seek a suspension rather than go through district court. But the problem is, even if we seek suspension of the licence, it's still a holding against the licence. As I said, 3 holdings in 3 years, the licence is cancelled. Often too, it needs to go to a hearing, which means could mean legal expenses for the club. So at the moment, we're just issuing infringement notices, or the police are. But when we check the clubs that have failed, and the clubs that have failed know that, if they fail again, then they'll be looking at a suspension and a holding as a result. So the frustrating thing is, I guess, the reason that we sent the letters out to all the clubs, and we don't warn for controlled purchase operations as a general rule, we're not required to, is to give people a chance to upskill and understand what we're trying to achieve and what they legally need to do and how they're going to be tested. It has been a bit frustrating that we've been getting so many failures with the correspondence we've had. Hence why we've got these cards now to really try and simplify. We appreciate there's a lot of volunteers in clubs. We appreciate that there can be lots of different people behind the bar, and that's part of the problem. For example, I'm supposed to be working behind the bar tonight, but I'm sick. So I call my neighbour, he's worked in the pub, he'll be right. Well, if that person doesn't know the club requirements, he's just going to be selling alcohol like they do in the tavern, which is to everyone who's sober and of age, which of course you still have to abide by, but the extra part of club requirements they're not aware of. So recently we had a sale from someone, it was their second night they'd ever worked on the place. Someone else who failed recently asked the first 2 questions perfectly. Are you a member of the club? No. The police officer we use, they tell the truth. Are you a member of the club? No. Are you from a club with visiting rights? No. Are you invited guests? No. And the person was starting to get quite excited. We're going to get a pass here, they're going to refuse. Oh, we'll sign in the book. You know, that's very frustrating. Yes?
Does everybody who sells alcohol, they don't need a license for that?
If you sell alcohol, you need a license. If you're selling to the public, if you're selling to licensed premises, you don't. But if you're selling to the public in New Zealand, you need a license.
So the bar manager can't detail somebody to sell alcohol?
That's right. You talk. There's 2 different things. There's the licensing of the premises, and there's the licensing of the duty manager. So you need to specify which one you're talking about.
Well, what about the license for the club then?
Okay, the license for the club, yes. So
Can a person sell alcohol who hasn't got a license?
no. Well, if you're sorry, are you saying you need a license to sell alcohol?
Yeah.
So this club is licensed, so it can sell alcohol subject to a club license condition. The duty manager's name has to be displayed. They have to hold a current manager's certificate, but in a club they don't have to be on site at all times. On the working men's clubs we require it because they operate more like a tavern, but in the sports clubs they don't have to be on site at all times, but they should be contactable by phone. Yes, but they still have to have the name displayed of the duty manager, and it's important that that person knows that they're legally responsible whether they're there or not. But to sell alcohol to the public, full stop, yes, an alcohol licence is needed, and depending on the premises as to whether the duty manager has to be on site or just displayed. a tavern, a restaurant, a working men's club, a nightclub, the name duty manager has to be on site.
A volunteer can sell, behind the bar.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, so what you're saying is, can a volunteer sell alcohol? So when a volunteer is behind the bar, they're selling alcohol pursuant to the club licence, because the club's licence, and also the duty manager there who's responsible whether they're there or not. But the important thing is to make sure that all the people that are sitting behind your bar know what to do. It's all very well if you leave here knowing what to do, but if you're not passing it on to the bar staff who have the cold face, you're going to fail.
So the duty manager is the person with the license.
The manager's certificate, yes.
Yeah.
So
So
to
the
verify,
manager's person. Their name has to be on the bar at all times.
if you're selling alcohol, the duty manager's name has to be displayed.
We obviously do as well. That's the reason But we put up the barman's name. We do that as well.
No, you don't have
So
to.
we do it wrong.
No, the duty manager's name, who holds the manager's certificate, that's the only name that legally needs to be displayed. There's nothing wrong with putting the other one up, you can just put bar staff. You see, the different terms can get people mixed up because people often phone up to say, I've got an inquiry about my liquor licence when in fact it's their manager's certificate. So you've got things happening, you've got people behind the bar who might just be volunteers or paid bar staff who are just selling alcohol. You've got a duty manager there somewhere, whether they're on site or just their name's displayed as in a club. And you've got the licensing of the club or the premises itself.
Is it sufficient to have their manager's certificates displayed?
No, we want the name, particularly if there's more than one. And legally it should be the full name. Now, we argued that we didn't think it should be the full name, particularly for females for safety reasons. Unfortunately, the legislation still legally requires it. What some places will do, they'll have the first name bigger and the surname a bit smaller. I don't have a problem with that, but some other people could. So legally, it's the full name of the duty manager display. By full, I'd say first and last. I wouldn't put the middle name in. Having the manager's certificate displayed there is fine if you want to, but sometimes if there's more than one, we've sort of got a bit of a multi-choice as to which one is it. So that's why we just want one name clearly displayed.
If two groups are at the bowling club at the same time, will one licence cover the two groups? Two different groups? Like for a roll-up for bowls?
Depends on the situation. Firstly, it's a premises that's licensed. So you need to look, you need to go back to the license. For example, for here, if you've got, if we're looking at this area here, which is licensed, who can be sold alcohol? Well, of course, it comes down to, are they a guest? Are they a member? Are they from a club with reciprocal visiting rights? So that question's always got to be asked if you've got a group that's coming from the outside.
I've got two businesses coming in for social bowling, and they want to use the bar facilities. If I go and get a licence, will that cover both?
Oh, a special licence.
Yes.
Yes, a special licence for.
It will cover both groups?
Yes, it'll cover anyone who's not, it'll cover the general public. You can invite the community for a day. Yeah, so that's where we're referring to a special licence.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So a special licence is for one-off events or a string of events that allows unlicensed premises to become licensed, or clubs, for example, to sell to the public. Oh, yeah.
We might just have to leave it there, but as Paul's alluded to, make sure that you grab the cards at the back of the room if you haven't already. Basically, just keep in mind asking those, get your bar staff to ask those questions, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And the link is on your handout as well to all information regarding your licensing and your consent. So.
And if anyone's got any questions after this, because I've got to go now, just phone the alcohol licensing team in Christchurch, ask for Paul, and I can answer any questions you got. And if you're a bit embarrassed, I don't need to know where you're from.
Thank you. And I can actually say firsthand, Paul is very approachable, so don't be shy to ring the council that council number and ask for him, because yeah, as I say, he's very approachable. Moving on to the next topic on funding applications. So if I could welcome Mr. Griffin to the stage.
Good evening, everyone.